Welcome to the Amazon Legends podcast, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became powerful sellers, also experts specializing in helping sellers, and both former and current Amazon employees who will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here's your host, Nick Urison.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My guest today is a techie turned an e-commerce expert, and he's been managing Amazon for almost a decade now. There isn't much he hasn't seen, and he's currently the e-commerce manager at The Art of Tea, and also he's a huge lover of dogs, cats, and LA Dodgers in that order. So you can't put the cats before the dogs, huh, Bart?
Unfortunately not. They'll come back and get you, Nick.
So everybody meet my guest, Bart Tashakor. Welcome to the show, Bart.
Thank you for having me, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have experts who spent almost a decade in the business. You know, with all these newcomers, you know, you start talking to them and, oh my God, the stuff that they did, it's terrible. So when you and I first met, you mentioned the key decision that you guys had made for the management of the Amazon operation. So tell us what that was.
Well, you know, Nick, in this situation, we were partnered with a third-party partner that was helping us manage our keywords, and you know, we just decided to take the high route with them and move on to ourselves and just bring it in-house. So I think that was one of the biggest key components we did with this year.
So, okay, I'm actually glad that you mentioned this, and even more glad that you made that decision, because I see these ads all over the place. And first of all, I have an allergy for the term "done for you." I don't know why, but it just rubs me off the wrong way. I don't know. It's the first time I heard, I thought, what does this mean, done for you? No, nothing is done for you. Plus, if it's really done for you, it's going to be very expensive that you can't afford. So you see a lot of these ads about, you know, your Amazon store. First of all, it's not an Amazon store, it's an Amazon account. Plus, you know, you will do nothing, just sit back. And so that's what you're talking about, right? Somebody taking over and they just don't work, in your opinion.
Correct, yeah. You know, I think, Nick, for us in this specific situation, it's just a matter of, you know, you want to have an expert level on your product, not just on Amazon ads. So I think that's perfectly on point with what you're saying.
Yeah, so as far as the actual business model of, you know, somebody doing this, tell us your experience. What was the key reason that you decided, no, we're bringing this in-house?
Definitely. You know, I think with Art of Tea, we're definitely still in that startup mentality. And so with that mentality, you know, you have to be very cognizant of all the money that you're spending. You want to make sure that it's going to the right place, having the right kind of return. And for that reason, you know, I took a very hard look at our third-party partner. They were managing our Amazon AMS campaigns, a little bit of the DSP. But, you know, ultimately, at the end of the day, the results weren't really there. And it was something that was kind of on my radar, you know, when I first started at Art of Tea about a year and a half ago, was we were just a little too young in the business to have a partner. You know, we're spending a lot of money just to have that partner, and the returns need to be phenomenal for you to justify that. So with that reasoning, you know, it was on my radar. And when this year began and I had a little bit of time, you know, Q4 can be kind of crazy on Amazon. We actually made that decision. We made the hard decision, you know, we're just going to take the high road. You know, they did a phenomenal job for us and we really appreciated everything they did for us. But we really needed that loving touch, I like to say, from Art of Tea. And I think that's where the difference in the decision was made. It's, you know, it's very hard for someone who doesn't really understand tea or drinks tea a lot or is even working with tea every day to make a kind of decision on what keyword's the best. And so with my background in AMS and keyword acquisitions and all that stuff, I definitely took that role on myself just because, you know, I love tea. I live it every day. I see tea, I touch tea every day. I drink it every day. So, you know, I'm not necessarily exactly what our customer is, but I have a good sense for that. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're so right. It's ultimately, in any business, job, career, whatever, and the standard saying is do what you really feel passionately about, what you really love doing. Then you won't have a bad time doing it. So then it's no longer a chore, so to speak. It's not something you have to do. So that applies to Amazon operation as well, because with Amazon, what Amazon wants is the best customer experience. That means a great product, great price, great reviews, great, whatever you're doing. And if you don't understand the product yourself, how good is that going to be? So an outsourced person is not going to feel passionately about it. They're just doing it for fee at the end of the day, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly on the mark. I think one thing that a lot of people don't also understand about these third-party managers is that you're not the only account that they're working on. They may have 6, 7, 8 different clients, and they have to split up their hours for the week that way. So, I mean, if you're running 8 clients on a 40-day work week, that only gives you about 5 hours towards AMS campaign optimization. And so I think that's where we kind of really took the ball and ran with it is, we focus, I love that you said the customer experience, because that's what we focus on in the end. We put the customer first. Our customer is our hero. And so we always focus on the end experience of the customer. And we go backwards and fill in that journey to make sure we're capturing every point on that journey and making sure it's as painless and, just easy to go. And like you said, nothing's done for you, but, we try to make it as easy as possible for them to, know exactly what the tea is, what flavor it is, and all that stuff. And I think that really plays into AMS acquisitions, going back to, if our rep only has 5 hours a week to spend on Amazon, that means that they're not doing much research on the keywords. They're kind of just managing it. And I think that's where for us, it was a big change, was the management and just kind of keying in on trends. So, from my standpoint, I get to see a lot more of the Amazon business than our partner does. I get to see our orders come in. So I'm seeing what's moving, what's popular, what's changing with the times, and I can make real-time decisions based on that. So for me, do it for yourself isn't really the standard with these third parties, because a lot of times you end up having to write up what exactly you want, sending it over to them for them to implement. And then that whole time you could have just done it yourself and saved yourself a lot of money and heartache, So that's definitely was a big contributor to our decision.
Yeah. So for the listeners' benefit, let's dissect a little bit of these offers out there, because somebody who is starting may find this interesting. Also, somebody who's kind of doing it but really on the fence with different offers out there, they may find attractive. So there are 2 types of offers when it comes to, okay, we'll take care of it for you kind of situation, right? So number 1 is they charge you a fee. They say everything is included in our service. There is nothing that we don't touch. We'll take care of your listing optimization, your PPC campaigns. You refer to them as AMS, Amazon Marketing Services. So PPC, Amazon advertising, and we'll do everything for you. We'll do the financials. Let's imagine that they do it all. Now, first of all, you cannot include everything. In my vocabulary, everything means nothing. You need to specify. Everything means nothing. Everybody means nobody. So you have to specify. So, but let's say that they do everything. They're going to charge you a huge fee because you just put it very nicely, 40 hours a week. You're not the only customer. So they have to justify spending their time. And the person who's working on your account is probably making between $65,000 to $85,000 a year. Well, who's going to pay the salary, right? So you will, as the customer. So that's one. So it's too expensive. The second model is revenue share. We will do revenue share with you. So right from the get-go, you have, let's say you are a new seller, and you may find that interesting. So you may think to yourself, well, how can I lose? There is no, I'm only going to share whatever the revenue I get. Right now, I get 0. So even if I get X% of the revenue, I give even half of it. It's not costing me anything. Wrong, right? Because what they will do is, and again, they have to make money. It's not like they're bad guys. They have to make money. They can't work for free. So what they will do is, on Amazon, you put your credit card in, and the minute that you start running ads, it's going to charge your credit card. So these guys will go to work running all kinds of ads. They will absolutely drive revenue to your listing, through your listings. So maybe you're gonna make, I don't know, $10,000 in your first week. You'll probably spend $10,000 on advertising, and you'll share with them X%. So these are the two business models out there. So do not ever buy into any one of these. You're gonna have to. So what do? I don't have the money to hire people. Well, you're gonna have to learn it yourself and hire someone who is knowledgeable, who can come in and do slowly. That's a much better way to do things than just go with these offers that sound too good to be true, because they are somewhat true, but it doesn't really help you in the process, right?
Right.
I mean, that's why you came on board, and then you said, okay, we're gonna do this in-house. So let's now dissect your approach. How did you start? What was the first thing you did when you brought it in-house?
You know, honestly, when I brought it in-house, I just really dove deep into our campaigns. You know, I think for me, a healthier ROAS is right around the $5 mark, $6 mark. That's where you really want to be, especially if you're in-house. You know, you get to really control it. We weren't near that, but our campaigns that our third party had provided for us they had some really good keywords involved in there. And so a lot of it was just going in and seeing, you know, what can I make work going forward? You know, we don't want to stop all our campaigns cold turkey and start new ones, because you're going to face that drop off where your old ones aren't making any sort of impression, so they're not converting, and the new ones still have to grow into converting. And so we really took that step to just go back and just dissect every single campaign, see what's working, see where it's pointing, seeing what keywords are working, what aren't, and then taking that as a blueprint across the board. You know, so we have keywords that we know they don't work because we've seen them. We have historical data on that, so we won't go and bid on those anymore. And then the ones that were working, you know, we just kind of adjusted the bids to make sure that they were correctly attributing and getting the correct amount of money. And then from that point, that's when we started working on bringing in our own campaigns. And for me, a lot of campaigns that you get from third parties are going to be very brand centric. And so what I wanted to do is break apart from the brand centric. We had brand specific keywords down. They were great. They started churning really well. And so now we started going after competitors, but also making sure we were keeping an eye on our defensive campaigns as well. So that was the next step for us. And then we started, you know, testing out videos. A lot of people in our industry don't use Amazon videos with their ads. And so we were able to capture a lot of the voice of the share of the voice of Amazon customers through that. And it's kind of funny, we started noticing a lot that our competitors started actually going towards videos as soon as we started using videos. So it's definitely, you know, the first step is always make sure that what you have to move forward with is foundationally sound, and it's going to be a good place for you to be at while you work on the future. And I think that's what our method was for going forward with our AMS and keyword campaigns.
So what I'm hearing is, so the first thing you did is really, wherever you're spending money, of course, that's the lowest hanging fruit, where you're gonna, whatever you do, you're gonna get a better return. So you cleaned up whatever was running by eliminating the keywords that were not producing as much in terms of your dollar generated versus the dollar spent. And then you started implementing new ones. Now, video ads, I'm hearing a lot lately, and everybody seems to be moving in that direction. So describe to us, what is a good video ad? How long does it, you know, how do you get that produced, and what is the length of the video? What should be in it?
You know, honestly, I think just kind of focusing, like, again, going back to the customer centric focus, I think we like to take a look at it from the end of the road, what the customer would like to see, you know. And for us, a lot of it is interactivity. So for example, for teas, interactivity can mean, you know, making a cup of tea. So we have a couple of videos with just loose leaf tea in a sachet and some hot water going over it. A couple of other ones we did for the summer was we started introducing some boba in there. And so that really resonated with our consumers. I think one of the things that the CEO of Art of Tea always kind of conveys to me is that tea is one of the things that you think that everyone would have some idea how to make it, how to drink it, but it's very intimidating to people. And so from the beginning, what I wanted to do is make it less intimidating, you know, give you all the information that you would need to make the perfect cup of tea, which is something we do really well on artoftea.com. But, you know, as many people know, translating that kind of information to Amazon can be very hard. You know, a lot of people just skip past your content and they just look for pictures and videos. So going back to the videos, that's where I wanted to incorporate that kind of information to the customer. It's, you know, this is how easy it is. It's just a sachet with some tea in it. You pour some hot water in it. You wait, you know, between 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and all of a sudden your tea's done and ready, and you're ready to drink it. Or you can make boba, which is kind of intimidating, just dropping the boba balls in there. And I think visually showing that to the customer and showing them how easy it can be was a really big difference maker for us. So I think from my standpoint, the best advice I can give anybody who's starting to get into videos is focus on what is the pain point for your customer and your product. Try to focus in on that and make it a little easier for them to see, and just take that stigma completely out of it, you know? So that's what we tend to focus with ours.
What do you find is the ideal length of that video?
You know, honestly, I think between 5 and 7 seconds. And we just kind of, you know, it's on a loop, so it has to be something where it can just loop back in an organic way, but 5 to 7 seconds, I think.
Okay. And did you test like with music, without music?
Yes, so we've done with the music, without the music. We've done some title screen testing, you know, different teas, different styles. But ultimately, I think what we've gone to is not having music. For me personally, I think when I search Amazon or any sort of web page and you're scrolling and all of a sudden sound starts playing, that's kind of a little annoying. So I tend to stray away from that, you know. So I kind of just try to live within the atmosphere of Amazon. You know, it's kind of quiet, but I think the motion itself is enough to grab your attention because everything else on the page is static. So,
are you familiar with a service website called pigfood.com?
I am not, no.
Oh, I'll share that with you. If you normally, you know, as you know, the main product picture is the most important. So you want to test, but there really is no way of testing anything because, you know, you decide this is what I'm going to put up as the main picture. And then the next thing is you have your campaigns running and is converting at X%, whatever the case may be. And that's it. That's not a test. You can switch it with another one, but then again, you're burning dollars, time, and everything else. So what Pigfood does is you simply go on the website, you create an account. The cost is almost negligible. And then what happens is you create your own audience. You can decide, I want men, I want women, I want a mix, this age, this income, whatever. And then you create an audience, and then you put up 2 pictures, and you design your questions, and you ask, and within like a couple of hours, you know exactly which one people like the most before putting your listing live. And now you know exactly how people feel. And of course, you could be asking, you really have to formulate your question. For example, if you say, which picture would be your choice to make the purchase, that's not clear enough. What are you asking? Is that picture on the product detail page? Or is it in the search results? So you just need to make sure you ask your question very clearly, and then you put the two pictures side by side, start your poll. Within a couple of hours, you have your answers.
Huh. That's very interesting. Yeah, I like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, the cost is like $100.
That's
Can
not
you
bad.
imagine the amount of money that you would burn through and the time? This one, before. So the reason I bring it up is because I wonder if they do video,
Huh, that would be an interesting comp.
because you could put up 2 videos and say, tell me which one you would click on.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. I think a lot of Amazon sellers come to that point where, you have so many videos coming in from the creative team that are all great and you just don't know which one to use. So I think that would be a great tool to be able to pull the, potential consumers before you even get out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we were kind of struggling with the decision because a client of mine has a kit. And the kit has 12 different items in it. And we were trying to figure out what to do, whether to put all 12 in one picture or just put a few and then, just say kit includes whatever, and without the text, but somehow show that. And they came back clearly, overwhelmingly. They said, this is what we want.
Huh. That's it. That saves a lot of the guesswork right there.
Oh, yeah. So that's great. Okay, so now that you've done the campaign, so let's talk a little bit about Amazon, paid Amazon campaigns versus external campaigns. Have you tried the external traffic route or not?
We dabbled a little bit in the DSP, which does do the external websites and stuff like that. But we haven't. When we pulled back, we kind of pulled back on the DSP because I think, as you know, it's a $5,000 buy-in every month that you need to produce, and it was just a little bit too much for us at the moment. So we kind of pulled back. But honestly, when we were using the DSP, it was a very good tool for us. We actually tapped into a lot of new to brand people just because they were able to see us in different spaces besides Amazon. So I always like to look at it. And actually today, I think I was looking at one of the Amazon ad services that is kind of like more of a DSP, but on a lower scale. And it looks pretty interesting. So definitely interested in that kind of tech and apps.
Well, the program that comes up whenever I'm talking to different sellers is the brand referral bonus program. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that uses Amazon attribution. So for the listeners' benefit, Amazon attribution allows you to insert a code in your ads that you're running outside Amazon, like Facebook, TikTok, Google, whatever. So that way the system can say, okay, this traffic is coming from Facebook or Google, whatever the case may be. So if you have that implemented, then you can join the brand referral bonus program as a brand registry seller. As long as you are registered on Amazon brand registry, you can get into that program. Then what it does is any traffic that you bring into Amazon from outside Amazon by running ads, the revenue you generate, the gross revenue you generate from that traffic, Amazon pays you back. Depends on the category, but roughly around 10% of it you get back. So, but I'm not aware of a minimum threshold of $5,000. So this is for anybody, as far as I know.
Correct. Yes, I think the DSP is the only one with the threshold that goes into it. But the brand registry is definitely something we've definitely been looking at, started implementing recently to kind of help us not only gain back some of that money, which I think is a really great perk. But really for us, it's kind of tracking who's coming to our ads and seeing that on a lot more of a grand scale to see exactly where the journey began with. So it's very invaluable to us as well.
Yeah, as something to be aware of. I mean, this is a great thing because first of all, it's one thing to bring traffic that's already on Amazon to your listing and then track whether those campaigns are paying off. But it's another to bring new traffic from outside Amazon that will come directly to your listing. There is no more search. There is no more nothing. You just simply advertise outside and they land straight on your listing page. So there is no more search. However, the dangerous thing is, for a fact that if somebody searches something on Amazon, they are doing that in order to purchase it because they are buyers. That's why they are on Amazon. So therefore, whatever conversion rate you're going to get on your product page is the conversion rate that depends on the content and everything else. It assumes that whoever is landing on your product page has the intention to buy. But if you run ads outside Amazon, Google, or Facebook, or whatever, you don't really know that people coming to your page have the intention to buy. So then your conversion rate may suffer. And of course, Amazon ultimately is looking at your overall conversion rate that will give you the rankings. And I've had both scenarios. I've had people saying, you know, we ran our ads carefully and our conversion rate didn't suffer when we ran external ads, so we were fine with it. I've also had people saying we had to stop it because our conversion rate started to fall and we were losing our ranking. So that's something to consider. You can't just say, oh, you know, we're going to get 10% and then your rank will go straight, you know, down to the bottom. So
Yeah.
you haven't experimented yet, I hear, right?
Correct. We've done a little bit of the brand referrals, and we've noticed that, you know, our conversion rate did kind of go down a little bit. But to be honest with you, Nick, I think like it's very similar for anything you do in Amazon. There are a lot of things that you can overdo and has a negative effect on you. So it's really about creating that balance within all the initiatives that you're running on Amazon. You know, all the work that you're doing and the efforts. It's really about keeping that balance, because if you stray too far into something, you might start to dip into the other metrics that you don't want affected. And so I think with the brand registry, much to how we've talked about before, I think the slow buildup is the best method to do anything, I think, on Amazon. You want to get some information, some historical data before you start making any more decisions.
Right. So that's a nice segue into my next question. So you've got your campaigns running, you've got your operation running, you're doing inventory, you know, replenishing your inventory, whatever the case may be. So what are the metrics that you are watching? What are the data points that you're tracking?
Definitely for me, obviously, you know, return on ad spend is a big one for us. We want to just make sure that the money that we're putting out there is being returned in a healthy way. Because as you guys know, Amazon takes a very healthy cut of your profits, every product you sell. So you really, like I said, balance is key. So you want to make sure that you're balancing that out. Another one that I like to look at is new to buyer, or new to brand, I should say. That's a really important metric for me, I think. Generally, you want to be bringing in a lot more people every month. You know, you want to be replenishing the customers that you may lose for whatever reason. For you know, they may not like your tea anymore. They found somebody else that works better for them. So you want to be replenishing your customer pool. So I think that new to brand is a very big metric for me. And I also like to look at the top of search when it comes to keyword acquisition campaigns. I like to have a healthy top of search metric, because that just means that when someone's searching, to your point, on Amazon, when people are searching, they want to buy. So you want to be at the top of the search. You want to be the #1 product on that sponsor ad, because they're going to see that first. And that's the very first product that's going to get in their mind. So I tend to look at that a lot. But I also keep a very big eye on our sell-through rate, just going into the Amazon itself. Sell-through rate's a big one for me, because, you know, our API score is very heavily reliant on that score. So we want to make sure we're keeping a healthy sell-through rate. Whenever you see that dip, you just want to kind of take a look at what products maybe aren't selling as well anymore. Maybe it's time that they're at the end of their life cycle and it's time to, you know, retire them from Amazon, or it's something that maybe just even a little bit of a sale can help it boost a little bit more. So that's definitely something that I look at too.
Mm-hmm. So as far as these data points that you're tracking, tell us where you get them. Obviously, your advertising data is in the Amazon advertising reports, right? So it kind of, that's easy enough to find where it is, and also look at it in perspective, because it shows it to you in perspective. That's how it is, right? So
right.
How about the rest? So tell us where you go to find that data.
You know, honestly, we used to rely heavily on our third-party partner to give us a lot of the data. But I noticed something, and it was very funny to me, because I think anybody who works in Amazon has to be some part mathematician. It's just a general requirement for Amazon, I think, because no matter who you run into in the circle of Amazon, everyone's got their own sort of algorithms that they've built out themselves. to where you're taking in data directly from Amazon and just dropping it into whether it's a database or an Excel sheet to get in the information that you want specifically. So for me, a lot of it deals with Excel. I've spent, almost a decade in this business, and I built out quite a few different algorithms and different Excel spreadsheets that help me really track what I want to track. So one thing I always tell people is Amazon's really great about giving you a lot of information, but they're also great about not giving you any information that you need.
Right.
And so I think in order to be successful on Amazon, you get to that point where you say, I want to know something specific and Amazon's not giving it to me. How am I going to build the path to that? And so what we keyed in when I was very young in this business was just building out a lot of different, equations. So I have a background in mathematics in college. So for me, building out equations and running them through a system is just, it's like divine to me. So going back to that passion, I think my passion's in mathematics and it translates out to Amazon. So I love just running information, but I really think that you can't really rely too much on other things. You can gather certain information that you need and draw it in for yourself, but ultimately you're the one who has to make the decision. So I think at the end of the day, whatever you feel most comfortable with is what you need to go with.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You can't really rely on the information that Amazon is showing because, I mean, in this day and age, I always say this is 21st century. You can't really, there's no more secrets. You can't keep secrets. Somebody somewhere talks and it comes out. And when it does come out, if it was a secret, then it really comes out big and it blows up in your face, right? So there are no more secrets. So how do you keep a secret if there are no secrets? But some things are really secret. Then you put so much information out there. So you don't know which one is the real value, right? So to give no information, you give a lot of information. So then the information that's valuable gets lost. And good luck figuring out what is right, what is wrong. Or I should say, I don't mean right, wrong, but I mean just too much clutter. So it's the same thing with Amazon. So Amazon is very good at providing the data, raw data, but it's up to you to take that data and build your own Excel files and as you put it, equations and formulas. But most important, also visualize that data. Because just looking at numbers is not enough. You need to visualize the data. And that's the way you can see some things that really will help you improve. Otherwise, you can be doing this all day long, watching numbers, you'll get cross-eyed and you won't get any work done. So how about the conversion rate? Do you track conversion rate? I don't mean campaign, I mean the listing conversion.
We really do. I really do keep an eye on conversion rate. I come from before I worked in tea, I actually worked in the cosmetic industry. And it was very interesting for me because in the cosmetic industry that I was in, the company, we had a lot of legacy products. They were the most outstanding products we had. They were our halo products. I believe I even had the fifth product that the company had ever made. The company had been in business for 70 years. Amazon was solely keeping that one product alive just because our conversion rate was so great for that product. Oh. And so I learned from an early on stage that conversion rate is actually what really drives the business on Amazon. So for example, at RT, I had this product. I thought, this product can't fail. Like it's going to go on Amazon. People are going to love it. Everyone's going to buy it. And so, I opened up the listing and I started selling it. Unfortunately, that product just didn't fit any sort of need that anybody wanted. It just wasn't the right product for Amazon, I believe. And the conversion rate was the telling sign for me. So when I was looking at how many people were actually looking at it versus how many people were converting on it, it just wasn't the right fit for me. I thought it would have been a lot better. So with that information, I was able to just kind of track that versus other products that we had introduced and came up with the realization that maybe that product wasn't meant for Amazon. But then I had another idea. Maybe that product wasn't meant for itself by itself on Amazon. And so what I ended up doing was I took that product that had a very low conversion rate, and I took one of our higher converting products and I put them together. And it wasn't the same as the highest end converting product, but it was good enough to keep them in there. And it was a very profitable product for RT. So it solved another problem for us, which was, we want to make sure our profitability is really on point at all times. And so by introducing basically a bundled product, we're dipping into less fees from, shipping it, from Amazon selling it. And then also I'm able to provide another product that people will love. And eventually my hope is that that product will generate enough of a loyalty from those customers that are buying it that maybe they don't need that second product as much and they're going to buy the first product by itself.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately, I think conversion rate is one of the most important things we can look at. Like I said, it really, really has a big effect on our API score too. So we always want to make sure that that's a healthy number.
How do you track conversion rate? Where do you go, and then how do you use it in terms of the mechanics of it?
I use a couple of different apps that I use to just kind of track different types of information that are coming in. But a lot of it comes from Amazon's internal system, just kind of tracking it against that. I think that for me, there's certain things that you can trust Amazon on. And for them, I think conversion is something that's a big enough issue for them to want to make sure that they're giving you the accurate information. So I tend to trust them a little bit. But with Amazon, even if you trust something, you always have a backup system to make sure that if it's wrong, you'll know about it. So we do definitely have that in place too.
Yeah. So as far as when people ask me, so I say, first of all, I'm huge with conversion rate, because that's really the most important driver in terms of getting you ranked high in search results, and not to mention higher the conversion, the more the top line as well as the bottom line, and
Right.
Your ad campaigns. I mean, that is really the magic bullet of all magic bullets that will help your performance. But the only place you find that in a way that is going to be spelled out for you consistently is in the business reports. And
Right.
at child SKU level, the challenge there is you have to download it as a CSV file, and then you have to select the time frame. So let's assume that you do that. So all you have is a CSV file. What are you going to do with it? So you have to plug that into an Excel file to make sense of it. Number one challenge. Number two challenge is, well, just looking at it for the time frame that you downloaded is not enough. You need to look at it historically. What was it last week? What was it last month, last quarter, last year? So all those things, you have to look at it, and you have to visualize this. You have to be able to see going up and down. So that's another challenge. Challenge number three is just looking at it again, visualize over time, not enough, because what does it mean if it was 8% and it went up to 15%? Why? Maybe you change the picture. So you have to tag the events. So how do you do all this? I don't know any system that has this. So it's something that I'm finding. So what is your take on it, and how do you manage this?
It's funny that you bring that up, because I actually was working in an Excel file today that I actually used to track that kind of information. And I remember just thinking to myself, man, this is like the messiest Excel document that I own. And it's just the nature of the beast, because like to your point, there's no real one centralized location where you're going to find all the information you need. Right. And so what I do is I just built out, like I said, I built out an Excel sheet, and I track certain informations in certain periods of time. So whether it's what do we do this week versus last week versus last month versus last year versus last week this year, or last year, I should say. Yeah. And I think those are all metrics that you really have to take into consideration. And to your point, it can fluctuate. Your conversion rate might go up 7%, but maybe your impressions went down 25%. Right. So you're being served to less people, but you're converting at a higher rate because of that. Mm-hmm. And then I think for any Amazon person, the question always comes in, why? What happened? How do I duplicate this? Yeah. And so for me,
how do you scale it, right? Or how do you scale it?
Yeah. And so interestingly enough, earlier in this year, we had a similar situation. So one of my products that I sell in a 12 count, it's my number one product in a 12 count. And all of a sudden one day, that product went from selling 25 a day to selling 75 a day to 150 in a day. And so just by looking at the conversion rate and all this information on Amazon, you couldn't figure out what had happened. I didn't change the images, content wasn't updated, not running any new ads, nothing like that. So my next step is, I think what any American does is I opened up Google and I searched my company name, and I searched the company name, and under the news came up that a magazine had done an article on that specific product.
Oh.
And so that's where I think what I always tell people about Amazon is you're going to get the answers that you want if you're willing to look for them, you know. And I think that's what one of my strong points is I'm one of those people that can't let go of something unless I know why it happened. So that's where ultimately I think those kind of metrics will give you a lot of information. They can also be very confusing, like I said, if you're dropping in impressions but your conversion rate's up, you really don't know what happened. That might be just a fluke for 1 week. Or maybe it's even something outside of the Amazon sphere that's affecting that number that you don't even know, you know? So it's a lot of different things I think that go into it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult with Amazon to pinpoint it sometimes.
Well, two things that I always recommend. First of all, put yourself and your products on Google Alerts, because that's great, because you'll get an email when you get mentioned. So at least you can be prepared. The second thing is, if you're going to make changes, you have to keep a journal. And then, of course, you have to correlate that journal to whatever the numbers are showing. But do not make more than one change at a time. Change one thing at a time. If you make three, if you change the main product picture and then change the bullets and then update your A+ page, and your conversion rate may go up, of course, that's a good thing. But why? Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a combination of things, but now you have no way of knowing what contributed and how much. So, so that's the trouble. So I was working with a client, and then something happened. They said something. He said, "Well, we'd rather just go with what we have and launch, and then deal with it later." I said, "No, you don't want to do that, because once you launch, the changes you're going to make will have to be one at a time. That's going to take time and money with testing. But if you launch a little bit later, but comprehensively, then any change you make is going to be much, much more minimal, at least not too many changes." So that's what I say. This is great. I mean, obviously, you are dabbling in it. You're right. There is no way to really use those files unless you build your own system. And my experience was, you know, it took so much time to update every time. I would be exhausted by the time it was over to study it and do something with it. And then it would be the end of the day. Usually I'm busy, and then I'll do it tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow I sit down again late, and then now first I have to update, and then it gets pushed back. So that's so. But tell us about, so other than, you know, you taking over the operation and bringing it in-house, describe the team. What is a good team? What are the roles and responsibilities to build a successful Amazon operation?
You know, I think I think the number one question I get asked in interviews, and I always kind of expect it, is that, you know, what's the secret sauce to Amazon? What's the one thing that we can be doing that will change the game for us? And I always tell them the same response. I always tell them, you know, Amazon is a delicate entity. What you need is hard work, determination, and a willingness to do a lot of research. And I think that goes into play with any business, not just tea. I think, you know, you have to have a real passion for what you're doing. You have to have a passion for Amazon and the whole system that operates it. But you also have to be very cognizant of, you know, what it is people want. You know, you got to focus in on that. You got to do the hard work in that sense. You know, I think one of the hardest things for me is, and it's just to get in the mindset, is to take myself out of myself and to put myself in the shoes of my customer. So like, for example, let's say we're selling an English breakfast tea. You know, that might not be my favorite tea, but it is somebody else's. And so I have to look at it from that standpoint. You know, I could take out what my preference is and see what other people are. And, you know, maybe that they really like a strong cup of tea, or they grew up with that kind of tea and that's always been their go-to tea. And so knowing that, I build that process backwards from that. And so I think that's the same thing for anything. When I was in cosmetics, it was the same. You know, I don't know much about cosmetics myself, but, you know, I took the time to talk to our customer service people. our merchandisers, they were all women, and I would ask them different questions, like what is a highlighting marker for? What's a highlighting brush for? What's a highlighting powder for? There's so many different products. And the passion that they give you is almost contagious. You start to really love what they're saying, their passion, and it gives you a different vision into what you're selling. And I think knowing what you're selling is the number one priority for you when you're selling on Amazon, because if you don't know what you're selling, then your customers aren't going to know.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. So you really have to have an intimate understanding of how the product is used by your customers and then how it benefits them. So am I hearing from you that not to worry about the roles and responsibilities so much, but make sure that whoever is coming on board has a passion for the product that you're selling? Is that where you're putting the premium?
I think so. I think passion for me is the number one premium you can find in anybody that you're bringing on for any sort of role in your business. I think that passion breeds a lot of things. So they may not be the most experienced person in e-commerce, but the passion that they may have for tea or learning e-commerce is going to drive them to gain those skills. And for me, it's always easier to work with someone who shares a passion. Then you want to work with them, you want to teach them, you want to cultivate their knowledge a little bit more. And so that just I think that's the one thing I would look for in anybody that I would hire for working on Amazon or to help me with my Amazon would be passion.
This is interesting, because this is one of my favorite questions I ask people. So describe a good team that it will take for a business to be successful on Amazon. What are those? And people usually go through, like, you need to have somebody who's good at creating content. You need to have somebody to deal with fulfillment, whether it's FBA shipments or otherwise. You need to have somebody about the analytics, someone who understands the numbers. So usually, and I agree with it. I mean, somebody has to be doing those jobs. However, earlier, another guest did not answer it that way. He put premium on leadership. He said, I look for someone who is project management, who has a project management approach to things, who can delegate and lead. So he never mentioned any of these roles. So I said, so am I to understand that you would rather have someone who can delegate and then manage multiple tasks and make sure everything is running according to plan, and then he'll figure out whatever the roles are, whatever responsibilities. He says, yeah, exactly. He says, I don't get into managing, you do this, you do that. Plus, there may not be enough money, but it's more important to bring someone on board who can lead. What you are saying is categorically the same kind of approach, but now you're bringing passion into it. So if I was to combine, so rather than define these roles, instead focus on bringing someone who can delegate and lead and have a passion for the product the company sells. That's all that's the formula, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the passion is like such a big portion of it. At my last company, I had this kid. He came in straight out of college, and I think a lot of people would dismiss him, but he just had such a passion, not for cosmetics specifically, but for knowledge, that it made it so easy to work with him. And I think that people are going to find the roles, and when you're working with Amazon, especially on a team, it's very much a team. You don't make your decision by yourself, you're making the decision across the team. And so defining roles is really easy. Delegating the work to people is fairly easy in that sense, but it's more so, motivating people, I think, is one of the biggest things that people find the hardest within a team. And so for me, I want to circumnavigate that. I want someone who's got the passion for whether it's for tea, whether it's for Amazon, as long as they have a passion that's going to keep them driving. That's I think the most important thing.
You know what? People ask me who are just getting ready to do this and they don't have anybody. I say, you have to hire somebody. They say, well, what kind of a person should we hire? This is my description. First of all, a college graduate with 2-3 year experience is all you need. You don't need someone senior. You obviously need someone who's going to lead the whole thing, but as far as having, you can actually outsource the expertise in terms of leading it, not necessarily heavy lifting, but setting the right strategy and overseeing. You can bring an outside expert to oversee it, but you have to own the operation and you have to build the internal expertise. And that, I say, 2-3 year college experience after college. But the most important thing is detail oriented and loves learning new information. That's all that's needed.
Oh yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh yeah. I would 100% agree. Amazon, I think, is one of those 100% lifelong learning journeys. So yes.
Yeah. And I tell them, and if you find somebody like that, first of all, what we're talking about is a kid who is looking for a job, wants to be part of something, but nobody cares because he has no experience. You bring somebody like that on board, and then you give him the opportunity to really work hard. He's going to love it. He won't leave. I mean, you won't be able to kick him out because he will make so much difference in the operation. He'll learn so much. And that's the best thing that you can do as a company, as an individual, as a leader, bringing somebody like that. I mean, that's a life-changing experience for a new employee, right?
Correct. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And passion, of course, is the underlying feeling. So, Bart, tell us, if you could change one thing in Amazon policies for third-party sellers, what do you think that would be?
Oh man, that's a really good question, Nick. You know, honestly, I think that I think bringing back the customer service the way it used to be would be a big help for us. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if many people out there remember, but you used to be able to get Amazon on the phone when you had a problem, and now I think there's just it's really been pushed out, whether it be overseas, but more so the push away from that internal contact where you can resolve something is something that I would change.
Yeah.
You don't know how many tickets people, I think, open and have to wait maybe a week to get an answer back, let alone get the problem resolved. Whereas back in the day, you used to be able to call somebody and, you know, explain it, talk to them. They would put you on hold for a couple hours, but you knew there was a good chance that you were going to get your problem solved. So definitely would bring back the old customer service.
So I have a little tip. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I used this a few times. It worked, and now that's what I recommend. So what I do is, if you are experiencing an issue, first of all, create a ticket. There is no question. You have to go click on help, and then you drill down in the categories, and then create a ticket. Put as much information as possible, screenshots, you name it, and then email it. Take that case number, then turn around, create another ticket. But in this ticket, just put, please refer to the case number that you just created with all that information. And this time, instead of emailing it, just select the option, call me back. So when you do that, what happens is, first of all, they're going to call you. As you know, it's an automated system. You will get a call back right away. When you get a call back, you just tell the person, this is actually my second ticket. You can close this ticket, but the original ticket is case number, blah, blah, that I put in the subject line. Can you please read the information I provided? I'll wait, don't worry, and just read it, and then let me know what you think. So now you don't have to repeat yourself. You don't have to, there is no more drop line that you talked about it. And then, so no more of that. And then they will take their time, and then they'll come back and say, okay, give me a minute. I understand. I'll be back to you. And then either you get your answer, or they'll say, okay, we're going to escalate this. But what it does is it saves you the breath and the frustration. So that's my only tip.
I appreciate it. I'm going to use that next time, probably tomorrow.
Yeah, it always works. This was great, Bart. So let's learn a little bit about you. So first of all, give us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in a little town in Southern California called Covina. And I say little town because, we're in the suburbs of Los Angeles. So there really isn't too many little towns, but Covina is about a mile square. So it's definitely on the smaller scale. I lived there pretty much my whole life, and grew up really with a passion for web design originally, funnily enough. So I did a lot of web design throughout my life, and eventually made my way into print production management. And while working there, you know, I kind of just went through learning a lot about production, very detail oriented job, which I think really helps with Amazon now. And so I was there for a couple of years, and I was lucky enough to just get the opportunity to switch from print media, which we all know isn't going to last forever, and switch into digital media, which I think is the wave of the future, and really played with my background in web design. So really took it from there, and here I am now. So really loving it.
Where did your passion for web design come from?
You know, honestly, my whole life, I really loved video games. As my family will tell you, I would be the person locked in my bedroom for hours on end playing video games. They would hardly see me or talk to me when I was a little kid. But that generally bred this just passion for figuring out how digital things worked. And, you know, back then, gaming, I think, was very intimidating to me. And so I luckily had this very...
So share with us, which games were you into?
So I really am a big fan of Halo, the series.
Yeah.
So I've been playing that for a long time. I actually been playing, so Bungie's the company that made them. My very first video game was a Bungie game called Marathon, which is what Halo is based on. So that's one of like the very first games I've ever played. But Madden, I really loved NFL's Madden. I actually played professionally when I was a teenager. Back before esports were a big thing, I would go to a couple tournaments and play in them. So definitely a big Madden fan.
So, you know, people playing video games, it's not a social activity, you know, you're doing it all by yourself. So were you an introvert, or are you, I should say, are you an introvert, or would you rather be on your own and then, you know, enjoy your own company, or how was that?
You know, I think it was a mixture. I'm the youngest of 4 brothers, and my brothers are all a lot older, not a lot, they'll get mad at me if I say that. They're a little older than me, so they were, when I was in elementary school, some of them were graduating high school. So it was just bred of necessity. I think for me, I can enjoy myself playing video games, but I am extroverted. So I am the kind of person that likes to get out there and talk to people. So I would say a little mix of both.
So you get your energy from interaction.
Correct, yes.
So how did that factor into because video games, you know how it is, when you start playing, it's like hours, you can spend hours. So how do you get energized when you're just all by yourself playing the game?
You know, honestly, it's funny. I played a lot of video games when I was a little kid, and I'd go through them pretty fast. Like my parents would have to keep up with me. And I think the interactive energy that I would get was going to school the next day and talking to my friends and being like, I'm not, you know, I beat this game, or are you guys on this level? Like, how are you guys playing that? And then eventually when the internet came out and became a lot more prominent, then we started getting, you know, voice chat. So when Halo, like for example, Halo didn't have a multiplayer component when it first came out, but there was an app that you could use similar to Discord or Skype, and it would allow you to connect to other people who had that app to play online. And so that was like one of my first ventures out into that. So for me, I am extroverted, but I'm not necessarily always needing to be physically present with somebody. Like I can get that kind of energy from just communicating with people.
So you are the transformed model of you know, of human beings, so to speak. You do not require the physical presence, but you require the human interaction, and you find that in the virtual world it's possible to do that. So I see. So I think what I'm hearing is you definitely need interaction for the energy, but it's the aftermath of the video game that gives you that energy, and that aftermath is, of course, the interaction with people. So it's almost like playing the video games was just the precursor for you to be able to interact with other people.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think it's one of those things where at first you just like playing video games, but then, you know, being able to interact with other people definitely plays into it.
Yeah,
you want to
it's
be
just
relevant.
a subject. Yeah.
Yeah. If you like music, you know, you listen to music, whatever it is, and a new CD of your favorite artist comes out and you want to get that because not only do you want to listen to it, but you want to know what your friends kind of think about the same music. So there's definitely that talking point that comes from any sort of activity, I think.
Yeah, and also video games are great for creativity. You know, it's all about it's the product of imagination. So somebody sat down and imagined the storyline and everything, and you emerge completely, you know, with different kind of thoughts. And so I mean, there is a concept called gamification, right? So
Yeah.
so in fact, I had a guest who was the business lead at Amazon to build Seller Central. And he was telling me, you know, his episode is not released yet. It's going to be released in the future. But he was telling me that his first assignment when he was hired by Amazon was to create gamification in Seller Central. So he built the whole thing about, you know, assigning points, like if you reach so many orders per day or whatever. So he had this whole gamification concept implemented, but then they pulled the project. And to this day, it's not gone anywhere. But because he learned Seller Central so much in the process, they said, okay, we want you to come and lead Seller Central development. So it was the game. So here, yeah, he started with games and he got hired at Amazon and created Seller Central. And here you are, you started with video games and now you're running the operation. So that's great. So Bart, give us your contact information. How can people reach out?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm available by email, bart@artoft.com. It's probably the best way to get a hold of me, I think.
Great. I'm sure you'll hear from people. I mean, I play video games myself, but I don't play like too many games. I just stick to one, and I get inspired to build our software system. So that's my reason. Plus, it's a way to kind of get rid of some stress.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. This was great, Bart.
Thank you for having me, Nick. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for being here. And this brings us to the end of another episode, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure and subscribe, rate, and review our show. And be sure and share an episode with a friend. And thank you so much for being with us today. We'll see you next week here on Amazon Legends.